What's going on, friends? I'm gonna let a couple more people come in before we start going through this. Yeah, so the way this sort of worked, man, I was at the comic shop and they keep they keep mostly coverless comics underneath the stairs when you go down into the main section, and they always have the price on the back in pencil. 50 cents. 50 cents. You could see. And there was a lot of interesting looking stuff in there, mainstream mostly. This is a lot of mainstream comics, mostly Marvel, I think. And I was being bougie at the time, so I was just like, "Can I just give you like $50 for the box?" They said yes. And this is what we have right here, man. Figure we'll get started. And of course, man, first issue special, Kirby's Manhunter. I like this comic a lot. I don't know that many of these first issue specials bore fruit in any major way. Maybe the Creeper did in some fashion, man. Dingbats of Danger Street, one of the greatest titles in comics history, I would say. This is primo Kirby to me, man. Great stuff. Creeper, Steve Ditko classic, Mike Fleischer on writing duties. $0.50, man. These Kirby joints, 70 cents, 50 cents. Adventures into Fear, number 28. Morbius story drawn by Frank Robbins. You could do worse. Alpha Flight number 6. The Snowblind story. You guys know the deal about this, right? In an era where John Byrne is drawing 1 million comics a month, maybe sometimes 100 pages at a clip, you might want to cut some corners sometimes, man. And are you guys ready to see some of those corners get cut? I'll turn the page, goddammit. Just you tell me when to turn the page. How about that, man? We'll tease it out for a minute. There you go, Dan Miner. Here it is, man. The reason why the story is called Snowblind. And this is not a part of the comic. This is an ad. This is the comic. Now, I did a page that was completely white and just had lettering. And I got paid a full rate. Penciling, lettering, coloring, inking, writing, all of that. Ah, that's so good, man. Hey, man, he's being formalistic. He's playing with the form there. I think it's punk rock. I can't diss it. I think I will leave this stream live. As long as the audio is good. Alpha Flight 7. I do like John Byrne's Alpha Flight a lot. I ain't gonna lie. Actually, this would have been the one with Sasquatch on the cover. Man, my cousin, I have a cousin named Ed Piscor that I used to hang out with when I was a kid. And I got this comic off of him. Love it. Here's some good shit right here. This was like, I get to this and I'm like, yeah, like, just give me the box. Issue of the Avengers, number 98, drawn by Barry Smith in his kind of Kirby period. I'm just going to move the chat a little closer so that I can see you guys. I believe this is before he got his gig on Conan. And I think there is an issue or two of Conan in here, in this box as well. He would do this thing, like, it's so wrong. The eyes are so close, but it doesn't matter, you know? It still looks cool, and in fact, people tried to copy this. Also, these, like, checker backgrounds, man. He would do that in Weapon X. Look at that. It's not quite right. It's not quite Kirby. Little wonky, but totally awesome. Batman number 302. No. Batman number 207. Yeesh. Pardon my dyslexia. Irv Novak on creative duties with Frank Robbins' story. 1968. This could have used a little bit of some Kirby language. You know, a little boring. Very often you would see these comics with the little top piece cut off because the proprietor would be able to send that top receipt back to the distributor to get their money back. This is number 215, another Frank Robbins or Novak gimmick. Yeah, I agree, Greg G. Lots of Steranko in that early Barry Smith. I'm not sure when Neil Adams comes on board with Batman, but he was much needed here. Stuff is pretty boring looking, like clip art. Corey C, what's up, Holmes? Batman 226, another Frank Robbins, Irv Novak. Batman was a constant for me when I was a boy. I have almost every issue from when I was age 5 to 12 or 13. Got real bored with it when Nightfall happened. I hated that they made me chase other books to like get the complete story, so I just abandoned ship. Thought that was a real punk move, even as a little kid. Batman 275, 1976, Ernie Chua and Tex Blaisdell artwork. Tex was a famous ghost in comics. He did a lot of strip work that he didn't get credited for, and he was one of the first year teachers at the Joe Kubert School. Mr. Roboto Comics. Well, I brought this box home. We'll just say that. There might be stuff down there that you dig, though. More Batman 278, 1978. Continuing the creative team of Ernie Chua and Tex B. Really organic line. I quite like it. Like, you'll notice that it's a little bit rougher than the that Irv Novak stuff we saw, but it's more interesting looking. You know, it has more soul to it. Let's see, more Batman. This is an interesting one. And by the way, call out if when I come to certain issues that seem kind of cool, that you know really well, let me know and they'll go higher in my to read pile. Batman 310, Len Wein writing this thing with Irv Novak on the drawing duties. $319, more Len Wein, Irv Novak with this, like, what's his name, Gentleman Ghost or something? Weird character. He was never in the game whenever I was reading this stuff. Batman 339, Jerry Conway, Irv Novak. Berserker. This might be a cool one. Actually, Angel Medina art, but in the back it might reprint some of the early Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld stuff. Yeah, there it is right there, man. Eric Larson, 1984. Rob Liefeld, 1986. You know, published by Megaton. Megaton 3, first appearance of Savage Dragon. Look at that, Liefeld 86, man. Still figuring stuff out. Black Panther, Kirby. Whenever I go to this shop, I never let the Kirby books rot in those fucking bins, man. This is issue number 10. Primo era. I think I put this whole collection together spending 25 cents or less. Oh, I didn't know that Ernie Chua and Ernie Chan were the same guy. I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it at this moment. But I will definitely look it up. A lot of Western books in that box, man. Artist named Al Hartley on this. Not even sure exactly what comic this is. Very weird. It's the complete book, but the indicia is unavailable. This is pretty weak looking. All-Star Squadron. I have nothing much to say about that. Except it was one of those masturbatory Roy Thomas comics, man. His fanboy comics. Now we're getting into some weird stuff. Some old Dell comics. Annie Oakley. I don't know anything about this shit, man. Arak, man. Ernie Colon, rest in peace. When we lost him, I was thinking about how if you go to a store that's sorted out by company and you go to the DC section, you'll get mad Ernie Colon comics right up front because he did Arak and Those Things Never Move, and he did Amethyst also. Doesn't go anywhere. More Arak. Ah, 2 copies. More Arak. Kazar Comics. Herb Trimpe. This is Astonishing Tales, actually. 1971. Man, this is pretty cool looking. I like when Herb Trimpe just takes like 10 seconds to draw a page. Look at that. This is very close to like his 24-hour comic style. Wow, that's awesome. Gene Colan. Unmistakable. Compositions and lighting. Kazar Rich Buckler. Chick Stone inking. You don't often think of Chick Stone as like a Bronze Age inker. I always associate him as like a Kirby X-Men inker. Aquaman. Could this be some Primo Jim Aparo? I don't see a creative team given. This is Aquaman number 32 for anybody who wants to Google that and let me know who the creative team is. Looks cool, man. They did what they could with this goofball character. Wow, this is gorgeous. Man, this is awesome. What issue is this? Issue number 38. Yeah, let me know if that's Ramona Freydon. Batlash. 1969 DC Comics. I guess we don't know this one for a reason. Looks pretty basic. Battlestar Galactica Comics. Written and drawn, Walt Simonson, inked by Klaus Janson. That'll be worth a flip. Look at that, man. The new X-Men. Bonanza Comics. Brave and the Bold, 98, 1971. This is probably Aparo, right? Old reprint from 1952. Bob Brown. More Brave and the Bold. Milo Manara comic sneaks in the game. Let me make little piles here. All-Star Squadron, some more Roy Thomas porn, comic porn. Some Kirby, Captain America's. I have so many like doubles and triples of these things because I just can't let them rot, you know? And I'll often hook up friends with them and stuff. Some random ass Captain America. Pulmonary breakdowns. British cartoonist. Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew. Alcala and Scott Shaw art. So weird. Because they're so divorced from one another. You know, Alcala is very detailed, rigid in his fundamentals. And Scott Shaw has the cartoony style. Very interesting. I like that. The first issue shambles your way, February 11th. Ad for Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing. Captain Savage and his Leatherneck Raiders. Man, this is when Marvel was able to start distributing their own comics. They got out of the DC contract, and then they just went nuts for a while there, man. They had lots of cash in their coffers, man, to try new things. And this is one of those comics that didn't go anywhere. Chamber of Darkness. Number 6. Always good for cool reprints. Like, there's a Ditko right there. This one actually caught my eye. Probably an issue of like Classics Illustrated. Artist Arnold Hicks. Clearly Golden Age kind of character. From what I understand, Classics Illustrated was very rigid. Like, you could not fake stuff. You know, you had to be pretty strict with period detail. Sounds like a major headache to me. Well, let's just take a quick look. Cloak and Dagger #1, Bill Mantlo, Rick Leonardi. I don't know if this is the miniseries or the regular series. I don't know much about Cloak and Dagger. Like, all that I know about Cloak and Dagger is what I learned about them from the Maximum Carnage Sega Genesis video game. More Cloak and Daggers. This was interesting. It's a Dell comic from '66. If I had to guess, I would say Sam Glanzman. Though there are faces that look John Severin-ish, but it's really not. It's definitely not Severin. But this guy was working in pulling things from John's work. Still really good details. Good use of black. There's a Barry Windsor Smith joint. Or more accurately, Barry Smith, issue 7 of Conan. And then we get into... Who is this? Oh yeah, we get into the Buscema era. Curly KO, clearly a Joe Palooka wannabe comic. I could tell that this has, look at that, this has some value to me right off the bat. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to investigate Curly KO a little bit. Some Gene Colan and Daredevil. Guy worked on that damn comic for a million years. Look at that. Look at that there. Incredible. Yeah, one of the things I like about Gene Colan is that not only was his stuff pretty dynamic, but he's like the only guy from this era who was able to escape, who was able to sneak in like 3-panel pages like that, 2-panel pages. You know, nobody else would do that. Awesome, Frank Miller Daredevils. The gang war story. Oh, this is a good one. Getting deep into Elektra. Some origin work. This has to be colored by Klaus, man. It looks too good. Sometimes the credits page is in the back. This has to be colored by Klaus. And then this is like when Klaus is doing all the work, man. It still looks good. You know, Daredevil was a comic that I picked up for a really long time. William Johnson. Don't know him. Looks cool. I think I sound an interesting tangent. No, that's the figure. Frank Springer Dazzler comics. Interesting. Oh, what do we have here? DC Special number 4. You never know who you're going to get in these things, man. There might be some Toe 3 printed. Defenders comics. Rock and Roll Conspiracy. Don Perlin. I remember him from the G.I. Joe comics, the earliest ones. What a shit comic. Not G.I. Joe. I'm talking about the Dynamic Defenders. Tell me this guy won't be a Mort of the Month character in Wizard Magazine at some point. Alan Kupperberg pencils with Mike Mignola inks. Very strange. Detective Comics. We're getting into some interesting shit right here, man. This is Frank Robbins. Look at how wet that looks. Almost like gross. Gross comics. But I mean that in a very glorious way. Some Doctor Strange. Marshall Rogers. I don't know who did this, but it looks like I see some Terry Austin inks. Oh yeah, Marshall Rogers, Terry Austin. Yeah, you could tell, man. Nobody was putting this level of craft, like detail into their work back then. Terry Austin's the only maniac that would do that. Pen inking. Couple copies of that. Dan Green penciling, mostly known for his ink work on Silvestri. Yo, Dan Miner, thanks for that super chat, Holmes. Yeah, this is just like a placeholder. Some stuff they gave me. Variant cover. Brett Blevins. He's an artist I like a lot, man. I was a big fan of his New Mutants work. Paul Smith on penciling duties. Falcon miniseries. Jim Owsley. I think he comes back as Christopher Priest, if I'm not mistaken. Fantastic Four comics. Sal Buscema. D. Hands, man. That means that a lot of people inked it. Early Sienkiewicz, before Moon Knight even, when he was doing his Neil Adams gimmick. I think this might be the first John Byrne written and drawn issue of FF. Issue number 233. Yeah. They're very wordy. Oh, that's pretty fresh, right? Looks like more Falcon comics. Fury of Firestorm. I say whatever to this crap. Because we have Forever People issues, man. What did they want for this? 75 cents for that one. Oh no, look at that. They overzealously cut the cover off and cut the pages, man. That's a crime against... That's a crime against comics. At least the backup story is salvaged, man. I really dug Simon and Kirby era work. Frankenstein. Do we got some Mike Plug? Oh man, more overzealous cover cutting. F Troop Comics. Fun and Games Magazine. Ghosts, number 2. I have to look in these, man, because you just don't know who's going to show up. Ghost Riders, Don Perlin. I might have nearly a freaking complete run of these 70s Ghost Riders. Nice. G.I. Combat with a Joe Kubert title story. Doing the Haunted Tank. I'd never seen him do a Haunted Tank strip. Usually he would be on Sergeant Rock duties in G.I. Combat. How old is this one? 1965. This is when he's still paying some dues. Wow, this is incredible. This is well, it's not completely Joe Kubert, but more Joe Kubert than you see in average GI Combat. That's for damn sure. Our Army at War is his typical comic. GI Joe number 34. Got that complete run. Let me grab a drink real quick. This is a bold move. Don't do the typical splash page. Darren, thanks for the super chat. Okay, I know this. This is like that Martin Luther King Jr. comic that came out in the 60s. I don't know too much about these things. Really like the art. Reno Jones, The Gun Hawk. Garner Fox, written. Dick Ayers, drawn. The Hercules miniseries. I think that's like, is that Bob Layton? Yeah, written and drawn by Bob Layton. He was really going for it on this thing, man. He really was. Luke Cage, Hero for Hire. Billy Graham, badass artist. I like this work best on Black Panther. Billy Graham. Always cool if you could tap a Billy Graham vein. Yeah, look at that shit, man. That's good comics right there. Good tongue-in-cheek superhero comics. Oh, and this is, we're blessed with a Bill Everett backup story reprinting an old Submariner strip. Probably from like Marvel Mystery Comics or something. No, this is more late period. Well, not late period, but he's pretty well refined. Goddamn, Bill Everett was great. Wow. I have to look to just see if there might be others in. No. I wonder what made this so special that it would warrant. Unless they just wrote a short strip. You know what? That's what it looks like. Oh no, 17 pages, that's standard. Hopalong Cassidy comics from 1953. Beats me. House of Mystery, 87 from 1959. The Human Diamond. That old Tootsie Roll ad. Yeah, don't know much about these. There's a Toth piece. Wow. What a perfect artist. Good 10-pager from the Great Toth. That would be House of Mystery number 182. These later House of Mysteries were job or hack work, usually. Yeah, not that interesting. Gil Kane. Tom Sutton up there. Grey Morrow cover I would have liked to have seen more of. Let's see. House of Secrets number 89. Man, this art looks really ambitious. I don't know who it is. They're using like a coquille board to get like a pencil texture. Yeah, that's gorgeous art. They're at least trying something different, you know? House of Secrets. Oh, wow. Tony DeZuniga using duotone board. You rarely would ever see the duotone like being color applied over top of a duotoned artwork. I think it looks really good. I think they feared moire patterns, but you don't see it here. Good to know. Actually, this looks pretty good. Thankfully, I have my Alex Toth bootleg checklist of his entire bibliography, so I don't have to do this kind of thing on my own. Wally Wood art, how about that? Very late period Wally Wood. Super strong as always. Not quite the rigor of his EC work, but, you know, he was on that downward. Very cool. Easily worth 50 cents. Yeah, I don't count American Flag as a color duotone comic because I'm specifically thinking about the earliest like 4-color seps. They had better coloring at First Comics when they were coloring under his duotone board. Some of this looks fun. Tom Palmer doing complete art duties. Famous finisher of Neil Adams and Gene Colan, many challenging pencilers. Had his drawing chops as well. When you see this, man, the Filipino invasion has happened. House of Secrets 101, probably an Alex Nino piece. Very wild artwork. Very, very wild stuff. So good. Just really out there. Never seen anything like that at that point. This guy, E.R. Cruz, is a real great artist too. I had far more GI Combat comics when I was young than you can imagine. And E.R. Cruz did a really good spy ninja story as a regular feature in there. Liked his work a lot. Yeah, the Filipino guys are running game. Oh, I like the House of Mysteries and all. Oh, how about this? How about this? Hot Wheels, which issue? Number 2. This is Alex Toth. Look at that. The box is worth it just for this, man. Just great expressive characters, amazing shapes, smart compositions. And then we have Joey Jerkoffs doing backups. Incredible Hulk, number 148. This is probably some of my favorite Hulk stuff. Whenever Herb Trimpe was teamed up with John Severin. Like, John Severin really tightened up the fundamentals that Trimpe laid down. See, like, this is some douchebag inker on Trimpe, and it looks okay, but Severin's my guy. Trimpe did mad work on freaking Incredible Hulk. Buscema Hulks. What is this here? The Incredible Hulk. It says Volume 1, Number 4. Okay, this is like that post, like when Marie Severin did that cover. That might be Marie Severin. What is this? Yeah, Marie Severin, but it's a comedy piece. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. Some John Byrne Indiana Jones comics. Issue 1, 2 copies of that. Gene Day Indiana Jones comic. I think he would do an amazing Indiana Jones book. Fucking A. Holy shit. I'm putting this to the side. We might have to do a show and tell or something about that. It starts to fall off at the end. You know what? It's probably the difference between like one inker and the next. Ron Friends, Indiana Jones. Chaykin and Terry Austin, Indiana Jones. Who knew that it was such a popular book that commanded such talent? Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I thought this would have been like, what if Conan was in New York City? Invaders. Some more Roy Thomas masturbation comics. Frank Robbins art. Roy Thomas fanboy comics. Really great art. Iron Fist. I have a near complete run of this. Missing just that Sabretooth issue. This is issue 10. Some Iron Man. Don Heck era. 2 copies of whatever that series was. Tales of Suspense or whatever. Alright. Very strange. Some more Iron Man comics. No indicia. So we don't know which issue of Tales this would be. Iron Man number 40. So I guess this is the issue after the Free Comic Book Day issue, if my memory serves. Issue 100, George Tuska, serviceable. Some Romita Jr., that's pretty cool. Before he really kind of found his way. This is issue 147, 1981. Might be one of his earliest pieces. It looks very rough. Even through nepotism, you don't get to immediately draw Amazing Spider-Man. 2 copies of that. Some more JRJR. When he comes back in the early 90s, Armor Wars 2, that's the real shit. The Joker, number 4. Impossible for these guys to make this a good comic back in those days, man. Jonah Hex, whatever. Here's an interesting one. Art by Gil Kane and Ralph Reese, Journey into Mystery. Not the original series, 70s series. Here we go. Where they started reprinting old shit. Jungle Jim comics. And I believe there's like a pretty good section of Justice League of America comics. So this is number 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. This looks pretty cool. Mostly drawn by Dick Dillon. Maybe a Mike Sikowski or 2 in there. '74, '77. Lots of Justice League. Commandy, 24. Is Kirby still on the creative duties? Yes, he is. Incredible. Look at that. put together almost a complete run of these commandees from the quarter bins and such. Like I said, there will be a lot of Western books in here. Kid Colt. They would get really good artists to work on these things, though. Wow, that looked really nice. Dick Ayers. Dick Ayers, unfortunately, had to like live up to Kirby, you know. But when he was left to his own devices, he did really, really good stuff. Lots of Kid Colt. You'll find Kirby's in there. You'll find oddly enough, you'll find like weird stuff like Jack Davis sometimes. King Conan. Kupperberg isn't an artist I would think of as somebody who would be great at doing some Conan comics, but yeah, the pages are yellowing. Some of these freaking comics are like, oh, damn near 50 years old. All we care about is reader copies here, man. You could go somewhere else with your CGC and all that. Call the Destroyer. These house some really, really great art. Let me make sure I didn't go past any good ones. Because when, like for instance, this is Mike Plug. It's alright. But John Severin, Marie Severin, Cull comics. You want to get your hands on those. Mackenzie's Raiders. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Here goes some Machine Man. J. Chris Campbell, what's up, homie? I'm not sure if... You know what, I have an issue of Batlash here. Which issue of Machine Man is this? It's number 7. And then some random ass Marvel fanfare from 1997. Who knew it was going up that long? Oh, this looks abysmal. What a shitty comic. Oh man, I see some good stuff in there. These are just placeholder stuff. Secret Wars. I never read that. Dave Gibbons, Doctor Who. Interesting. This is gorgeous, man. Wow. Oh, I got 2. Maybe Jim will want one of these. I'll put one of them to the side. Marvel presents Moon Knight, Marvel Spotlight, number 29, early Moon Knight story. This is a good one. Spidey and the Not Ready for Primetime Players when Spider-Man teamed up with the cast of Saturday Night Live. There's Belushi right there. Written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Bob Hall, inked by Marie Severin. With Stan Lee as like guest host. You know what, I gotta put this to the side and read this thing. It's probably a big turd, but for the sheer novelty of it. We hit a Marvel team-up vein here. Marvel 2-in-1. When Ron Wilson does Marvel 2-in-1, it really kind of like finds its footing. I like the idea that there was an era where the Thing could command his own title of sorts. Ron Wilson ink by Gene Day. That's pretty cool. This has like a fandom vibe. You know, like it's like fanzine quality. Masters of Kung Fu. Mike Zeck, Gene Day piece. That's a good issue. I'm building a run of this. Been building that since I was a little kid, actually, man. Because I don't spend much loot on comics. Like, when it comes to back issues, it's hard to get me to spend $1 on a damn comic. Classic Micronauts. Like, this is that shit that influenced McFarlane and Liefeld and those guys. Art Adams. Jay, thanks for that super chat. Howard Chaykin, Micronauts comics. How about that? Rawhide Kid, Kirby Ayers. More Kirby. And this is like Kirby slowly starting to take shape into who we know him to be. It's a good juxtaposition too, because there's like, you know, Jack Keller, who's like the more boring basic guy. And then you see kind of like where comics were and where comics are going. You know, this is good stuff to have in the chamber. More Kirby Ayers, Rawhide Kids. Very cool. And then you'll find like the random like Barry Smith, you know, strip. Kirby can't help himself, man. Kirby can't help himself. Turning Rawhide Kid into a monster book. How awesome is that? Larry Lieber, Stan Lee's brother. More Kirby Ayers. And these are substantial books too, man. They might be more than 64 pages. Mighty Marvel Western, number 6. Marvel, they're no dummies, man. Sell it with a dope Kirby story and then pad it out with Jack Keller artwork. That's Dick Ayers by himself. Look at this. Gunsmoke Kid, Jack Davis, Marvel comic. Unmistakable. Oh, there's surely no Kirby's Boys Ranch, man. You ain't getting those for 50 cents. It's John Severin. This is a hell of an issue right here. Mighty Marvel Western number 23. That's a hell of an issue. Some more Kirby. Here in Pittsburgh, before there were like really proper comic shops, there was Olga Snyder's. She had like a newsstand, and she would stamp all her comics. This is like pretty much before my time, early 80s, and I have so many comics with this like stamped upon them. And I was curious about her, and I was curious about the shop on Federal Street, so I was doing some Google searching, and she owned her family like owned this whole building on Federal Street, but they never like there was like an attic or something that was locked up for years and years. And when she finally like inherited it all, she like busted into that little attic upstairs, and there was a very very expensive like rare painting. My mind is telling me a Picasso, but that sounds like too romantic. But there was like a very important piece of artwork that was just like sitting in the attic at this building for who knows how long. Now some more Olga Snyder. The Kirby Western stuff is really fucking dope. It just sucks that you have to pat them out with like these cornball artists. Sienkiewicz Moon Knight. I have a complete run with this, man. This is him like finding his footing, becoming his own guy. If you guys haven't listened to it, you should listen to our shoot interview that we did at Heroes Con with him. New Mutants. Some more New Mutants. You know your homeboy Ed has a run of those, man, so I'll be giving these babies away. Alright, man. Got a little bit more to go. Our fighting forces. You could tell when Joe Kubert is editing. George Evans. Bob Kanigher like wrote all this stuff, and it's like he wrote the same story 4 million times. Outlaw Kid, you can't sleep on these, man, because this is Doug Wildey artwork. You know, Johnny Quest creator, would dabble in comics like later. But the Outlaw Kids, like if you find them for cheap, like get your hands on them, because it's a masterclass in just illustration. And he did most of the art on all of these. More Doug Wildey. Yeah, grab Outlaw Kid whenever you see it. Some old Plastic Mans, but not Jack Cole good Plastic Mans. Like that 70s era of Plastic Man and Captain Marvel. Pretty trashy. Some Power Man, George Tuska. Power Man and Iron Fists. Of no major regard. Dennis Cohen. He's always worth a flip. I love these montage sequences, man. This is a good one. This is a good one. I've seen many a bad ones. And then it would be like this era Dennis Cohen that guys like the Wu-Tang Clan would have known and recognized and been inspired by. And then of course Cohen will then go on and do the illustration for the GZA's album. Liquid Swords, I think, is the name of it. I'm spacing out, but this is where they sort of built their interest in Cohen's work. Look at that freaking roller coaster. Power pack. A couple issues of that. PT 109. Who the fuck knows? I opened it up just to see if it was like PT 109 number 500, and it was just some shit I don't know about. Larry Lieber. We don't care about nepotism over this way, man, so we won't be going through that shit. But we do have to like at least look at the front, because I do know that there's like a Barry Smith in the mix. Red Sonja. Damn, it's like Red Sonja 1, 2. Richard Dragon, Kung Fu Fighter. Real turd of a comic. This has a Severin vibe. Ringo Kid. Oh yeah, JPS. That's definitely John Severin. Ringo Kid. It's an ugly comic, man. I see ROM. These are not part of that. I'll take it home. All right, ROM, Space Knight. Actually, we'll do it this way. Sal Buscema. This Jack Sparling guy, I've seen his name a bunch going through these books. I don't know him that well. From the looks of it, I have old detective comics that are with elongated man strips. He looks like the guy who would have probably drawn some of that. Some more of that like secret house, blah 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 bullshit. Don't care about that. Secrets of Sinister House. Oh, here we go, man. Some of the Filipino cats, and this is definitely Alex Nino. Just like these proportions and stuff, like that. This just was not in American comics until Nino brought it to America. Just so visually interesting, different. Sergeant Fury, Nick Fury, man, still at war, fighting freaking Baron Strucker every issue. Sergeant Rock. Shade the Changing Man comics. These are like very accessible. You can get them for cheap. Steve Ditko, 70s comics. A couple issues of that. Solomon and Sheba. This looks gorgeous, man. Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man number 69. 1982 with some Ed Hannigan art. Very good looking stuff. Look at this. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So he got out of the army and now he's going to be the spy dude. Lost his eye. And a story that is paced out by Jack the King Kirby and finished by John Severin. What a match made in heaven. Wow. Man, this is an incredible comic. And it ends with a backup Doctor Strange with Steve Ditko. Oh, I'm reading this tonight. I'm reading this one tonight. Superpowers, but not Jack Kirby superpowers, so we don't care. Sea Hunt Comics. This was not part of the thing. Star Trek. Legion Superheroes, man. Some micro art. 76. A lot of people really spoke about this, man, like it was some shit. But just a little before my time. Some Superman joints. Kurt Swan. He drew that for 1,000,000 years. Superman Annual. Is this the Toth? Inked by Terry Austin. Yeah, this is a good one. Run out and get this comic at your earliest convenience. Superman Annual number 9, 1983. Alex Toth with Terry Austin inks. It's worth it for that 2-page spread alone. How cool is that? Inventive panel layouts. Alex Toth's lettering is great. I'm sure the story is shit, so I'm not going to speak on that, but look at that. Superman Annual number 9, 1983. Get your hands on that. Some Dell Tarzans. You'll get Russ Manning in here. Yeah, Russ Manning. These are confusing though, man, because they were reprinted 1,000,000 times over, and you could end up buying 5 different Tarzan comics with different covers, and you're buying the same comic on the interior. All right, man. This little stack here will round us out. Some Teen Titans from the 70s, and I do think that there is like a robust amount of Teen Titans books here. Not that much. Issues 26, whatever. Nothing special. Mighty Thor, some Buscema. How do you like that, man? I kept turning pages and only saw ads. Tomahawk. Good looking stuff. Frank Thorne art. Wow, really good looking stuff. You could tell that Kubert did some layouts or something here. Absolutely. Tomb of Dracula. I have very few issues of this, but from what I understand, it's a complete epic that took a long ass time to construct. Tower of Shadows, #1. I always got to look in here, man, because I don't know much about these. Like, okay, yeah, for instance, here's a Neil Adams story I've never seen before. A lot of Buscema in this issue. Transformers, Turok, before Valiant. This looks really good. I like the no panel borders. Two Gun Kid, drawn by Ogden Whitney. A comic called The Unexpected. Sounds like a turd. What is this? The Unexpected, created by Len Wein and Robin Snyder. And Robin Snyder will be the person who worked closest with Steve Ditko for the later part of Ditko's life. Unknown hero. I mean, unknown soldier. Always something creepy about this. A lot of Dick Ayers in this box. The Vision and Scarlet Witch. Walt Disney Presents. Who knows? Weird Western Tales. This is where your Jonah Hex would show up. Interesting stuff in here. Not really my thing. Man, this is a good one. Oh man, that's a great Kubert cover. Weird War Tales, #42. Like occultist soldiers. Man, that's some really good art here. Alfredo Alcala. Say, Chris, you gotta, it's a part of the sickness that we all have, man. You gotta dig for those comics. What if, #11, what if the original Marvel bullpen had become the Fantastic Four? One of the oddest Kirby comics ever constructed. And one of the things that I like most is that the Jack Kirby character always calls Stan Lee Stanley, one word, one name, you know? There's Kirby at his table. Stan is Funky Flashman. Flo, rest in peace. How cool is this, man? I like Marvel Comics most when they are having fun. I'm gonna have to read this. That's going in the to read pile. Some old What If, number 24, with the Gil Kane, Frank Giacoya art team, with Tony Isabella writing. What if Gwen Stacy had lived? This is good looking Gil Kane. And I'm quite sure he was the guy who drew the original story, so that's kind of like some of the MacGuffin to get you to read this thing. One of the best What If issues? Which is the Gwen Stacy one or the Kirby? What If 39? What is it? What if Conan? What if Thor had met Conan the Barbarian? Consider me intrigued. What if Invisible Girl had died with some very early Ron friends? Oh, this is like that karate Wonder Woman era. Give me a fucking break, man. Cool looking art, though. Just Denny O'Neil, man. Try as he may. Try as he may, man. Paul Levitt's on writing duties on that baby. Yeah, we're not really gonna have like a big home run at the end. Let's see, Young Love. This is interesting. Bob Kanigher, the guy who I said wrote the same Army stories over and over, who knew he wrote some romance comics? What a haul. All for 50 bones at the local comic shop. A lot of good stuff to sift through and read on lunch breaks and whatnot, but it definitely tuckered me out. And what we did right here was an exercise in procrastination of sorts. I finished a page yesterday. A lot of you guys hung out in the stream then. That was real fun. But when I finish a page, that means the next stage is to like write and tighten up the next sequence. So very often what I will do is exactly what we just did right here. I'll start going through all kinds of books and knowing where I have to go with the comic that I'm making. Just kind of like daydreaming, thinking about how I'm going to lay out that story. It doesn't hurt to go through and look at lots of different weird artwork. All that said, the other bonus whenever I finish a well, maybe we'll go through these boxes someday. Whenever I finish a page, is I allow myself to sleep as much as I want the next day, man. So I woke up at 4 p.m. today. So it's very early in my work day. It's dinner time, so I'm gonna go split, fuel up, and then write the next 2-page sequence, man. I'll probably do a stream pretty soon, like within the next day or two, whenever I ink the next batch of pages, man. So thanks for kicking it, guys. Share the channel, subscribe to the channel, do all that stuff, man. I want to get this baby over 10,000 subscribers before I head off to Japan, man. So we got to make that shit happen. Anyhow, I'm gonna bounce, go get some grub. You guys enjoy your night. Take care. I'll see you guys on the flip side.